It's time to have an intentional conversation at depth. I'm Ben Rodgers, and this is the At Depth podcast, where we explore the through lines that connect what we value to how we build business and how we invest. Each week, you'll hear from entrepreneurs of every kind, from small business startups to multi-generational companies and everything in between. As we explore ideas together, we're going to get below the surface, because it isn't just about what we build, it's about why we build it. Welcome to the Business with Intention podcast. I'm Ben Rodgers. I've got Stephen Hatcher with me today. This podcast is about one thing. It's about visioneering the through lines that connect what we value to how we lead, strategize, and invest our time, energy, dollars into this world that we call business. Thanks, Stephen, for jumping on the old podcast here.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
We're among friends here, and so it's always fun to get you to reintroduce yourself to me like it's the first time. But introduce yourself, and with the caveat that you like fly fishing. So at the end of your introduction, you should say something like, "And my best story about fly fishing is XYZ." Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So my name is Stephen Hatcher. I am an entrepreneur in the oil and gas space. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or a small town outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and have lived in Denver, Colorado for the past 10 years. And yes, we have an operating business called Red Rock Resources, where we own and operate oil and gas, operated and non-operated oil and gas properties really across the country, with a specific emphasis on the Central Basin platform in Texas, which is in the Permian Basin. But we also have properties throughout the Rockies and throughout the Gulf Coast region. I'm also very active in the oil and gas space, and I have a personal brand called The Minerals Guy that I
Yes, you
launched
do.
a couple of years ago that has grown. It's pretty cool to see it kind of taking on a life of its own. And we do a lot of deals in the mineral rights space, and we're actually currently raising for a dedicated minerals vehicle, which is going to stand beside our operating company, Red Rock, and the minerals vehicle will be called Mile High Minerals. So fly fishing, let's see. So I moved from Louisiana to Colorado in 2014 before I had kids.
When you had time for hobbies.
Yeah, and I wandered down to the local fly shop, having never really held a fly rod in my hand. And when I told everybody that I was from Louisiana, they said, "Have you ever caught a redfish?" I was like, "Yes, I've caught a redfish." But I had no idea that literally the fly shop that I went into, that I used to go into all the time, they would charter for, Colorado fly fishermen guided red fishing trips in South Louisiana, which is what I grew up doing, although all with, hardware. We didn't use fly rods. So yes, I learned how to fly fish on Boulder Creek and had no idea what I was doing. It took me probably a year or at least 6 months to be able to go out and catch fish on my own.
Faster than me.
The one thing I'll say about Louisiana people and fishing is, like, I could bring somebody up to Colorado from Louisiana and they could never hold a fly rod in their hands. And typically, like, with a little bit of guidance, like, they're going to be catching fish pretty quick, because I feel like a good Cajun coon ass from South Louisiana, like, they can just look at water and know where the fish are. Right.
They
So,
do.
but anyway, I just fell in love with really just being outdoors, and there's just so many beautiful landscapes here in Colorado. And I quickly got addicted to fishing bigger water, because bigger water means bigger fish. Like, don't get me
Yep.
wrong, I love small streams, and just being out in nature, but I definitely like catching bigger fish. Me and Ben had the opportunity to what did we float that was the Eagle earlier this
With
year.
the eagle in the spring when it was high and fast.
It was high and fast, and Ben caught more fish than me because he was sitting in the front of the boat. So,
Huge disclaimer though, and I feel like this is gonna start a little beginning of a trailhead for this conversation, is that Stephen Hatcher made me sit in the front of the boat. We had a long discussion. I'm like, "Man, you don't have to give me the front of the boat. I don't mind. If I catch 2 fish, I'm gonna be tickled today. It's better than my last trip."
Don't say that I never did anything for you, man. That's all I'll
Oh,
say to that.
Stephen Hatcher, he's done it for me. We've worked together in a variety of fronts. I think it's always fun to say when we talk about through lines and what we value, one of the things I've always valued is connecting with people on more than one level and in more than one way. And sometimes it's gotten me in trouble, but I'll say most times. Most times it's nice to have multiple points of contact with a person. I feel like the relationship that you build on a multi-point basis is just better and more fun. So Steve and we've got fly fishing. Steven knows how to spank the little white ball in a game of golf. I know how to spank it, but I don't spank it very straight. We both enjoy Colorado. I obviously don't live there, but I grew up going there. He didn't know it at the time, but he actually found me my first mineral rights deal that I personally invested in. And then we've done my business has done development on multiple parts of his brands.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
then Cove Pilot has invested in his funds. So, I mean, what more do you want? That's enough points of connection right there, right?
It's great, man. I mean, it's like if anybody's ever seen my website, mineralsguy.com, that is Ben Rodgers. I get complimented. In fact, I did a deal with a guy last year who was an advertiser out of Atlanta. He was like, "Your website is freaking awesome, man." He's like, "Whatever you're doing, like, keep doing it. And I want to sell my minerals to you because it was just so clear, right? Whenever I got to your website, you were the right person for us." And so we've spent hours together, really across, all the different brands, but particularly on Minerals Guy, right? We spent a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
time getting into the weeds on kind of my vision for it. Ben and Danny, who works with Ben, you guys really brought that thing to life and in a way that's so tangible for folks. What I told him when we were going through the process is like, I want a mineral owner to hit my website and immediately have trust. Right. I want them to feel like they just come in and they just get a big hug. I think that we've achieved that. One of the hardest things about mineral rights in particular is really establishing trust, and if you can do that effectively, whether it's through a website or through video content mediums, I've found that it's been just tremendous for my business.
Well, beyond saying thank you for the huge plug and wanting to divert some of that praise to the Pivotal team because it takes a village, I want to ask you this question, Stephen. Why does the industry, let's just go mineral rights, let's go oil and gas, mineral rights inside of that. Why does it get such a bad rap? Why do people hear oil and gas and they immediately, their bodily reaction is distrust? Where did that come from?
I think it's a tale as old as the oil and gas industry itself. Just from an investor's perspective. I mean, back in when Spindletop was going, all these discoveries are happening, all over the country. The industry was really just fraught with bad actors, right? So people that were, over promoting deals or bringing in, the unsuspecting victim investor, right, to invest in a drilling venture or a lease acquisition venture, only to find out that the only person that made money on that deal was the promoter. I think there's a long and illustrious history of, people just getting their rear ends handed to them, in the oil and gas space. And on the mineral rights side, and I talk about this a lot, throughout, all of my content, there is an inherent distrust between mineral owners and mineral buyers because of the asymmetry of information. And especially when we're talking about individual mineral owners that are not savvy about oil and gas, right? Because valuing oil and gas properties is way more complex than valuing a piece of real estate or a home, right? If you want to know what the value of your house is, you go to Zillow and within, 30 seconds and within a standard deviation, you know what your house is worth, right?
Right. Within, let's say, 25 grand.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Plus or minus 25 grand. So I think when it comes to minerals, it's more complex. People just they don't know what the correct answer is. And so at some level, they're having to rely upon that buyer. There's no way for them to go check other than getting a different offer.
Because it's the same people, right? I mean, at some level, I think we all think that oil and gas happens in some gilded tower, right? And that the people in the gilded tower own the land that they are getting pulling out the juice. I love calling it the juice. They're getting the juice out over on their ranch over, ExxonMobil owns a bajillion acres and they just do their thing. But that's not the case. They own underneath mom and pop's shanty shack on 25 acres in West Texas, right? I mean, it's this, you look at Zillow, it's the whole world. It's everybody, every property. And technically speaking, you could have a mansion or you could have a shed or a horse ranch or a farm on top of these mineral rights.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I call it subsurface real estate, right? That's it because there are a lot of legal similarities between mineral rights and surface real estate. But in terms of how do you value that molecule of hydrocarbon in the ground, there's a way that we do it, and there's a way that's really kind of standard for the industry, but it requires kind of specialized tools and knowledge to be able to do it. I think there's inherent distrust. I think a lot of that is pre-shale revolution. If somebody was trying to buy your minerals, it's because they had information that you didn't have about future drilling, right? And what I would say is that the mineral rights industry has become far more institutionalized today than it was 15 or even 10 years ago. Institutional capital, private equity, I mean, there's the market is way more liquid than it used to be. It's way more competitive, especially in places like West Texas or in any of the shale basins. And I would even venture to say that if you're a mineral owner within the Haynesville or West Texas or North Dakota and you own greater than 10 acres, at this point today, you probably have a pretty good idea of what it's worth just because of market sensitivity, because you're constantly receiving offers from other folks. So that playing field has been leveled, to a certain degree, but there's still inherent distrust for the oil and gas promoter or, the landman that comes knocking on your door that he's, hiding information from you, that he knows something that you don't know. And so that's constantly a battle that we are trying to overcome with mineral owners every single day.
I like when you say level the playing field because that is very central to who you are. I mean, it's sort of the essential piece of the Stephen Hatcher story, why you exist in the world of business. You love leveling the playing field. And I remember once you said that there's this piece of fairness inside of you that just hates the idea of stealing from anyone. And I'd like to just kinda go into that because how does a guy that just hates the thought of stealing from people end up in this business, and how do you maintain your integrity when, historically speaking, you don't have to?
I think that at the end of the day, and it's funny because you actually kind of helped me flesh through this concept of I don't make any bones about the fact that I'm a mineral buyer, right? At the end of the day, like I am a for-profit enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So we don't do this out of charity, right? But I think there's a difference between providing somebody fair value for, we say good value for good minerals, lying to somebody to try to get even more juice out of that deal. We just don't do that. Permian Basin minerals are honestly nothing but heartbreak for me because it's just so hard. We see a lot of really good deals, and every once in a while we see, something that we're like, okay, stop everything that you're doing and spend all of your time on this because if this thing goes right, then it's gonna be big. We were dealing with a 92-year-old lady, out of Plano, Texas. Immediately, we started getting her daughter involved. This 92-year-old lady, when we first talked to her, we thought she was in her 50s, right? Just because she was with it. We were talking to her, other people were talking to her, and it was just wild. The different conversations that she would have with all these different mineral buyers. Because in some cases, people were calling and saying, oh, this property is tapped out and this is all we can pay and you should get out now. And we looked at it on the map. We were like, this is Pioneer Resources, now Exxon. There's a lot of potential for this property. But on the other hand, we kind of got to be the good guys with this seller. There were a lot of other folks out there that were just straight up lying to her. If somebody asks me the question of, is there more potential, for this piece of property? My answer is going to be, well, let me look at the map and let's see what it is. The idea that you're going to lie by omission, like we just don't do it. We'd rather just not do the deal. We can make plenty of margin and be very successful without being unscrupulous.
You may have just kind of done the math in your head, but I would like to flesh that out a little bit more because I feel like there is this when you're looking at like a fund or something like this, and you're looking at regulatory statements, right? You can't say things that are materially or factually incorrect. However, there is this whole category that is sort of fluff. You can get away with fluff. In your own mind, how do you continue to sort of keep yourself on the straight and narrow? Because there is a totally allowable amount of fudging, omitting, generalizing where you actually have super specific answers and thoughts. And when you engage with people, what's going on in the back of your mind, or maybe even down lower in your chest, that's just constantly reminding you of your own value set? Because it's always tempting to sit there and go, I don't wanna say that. I don't wanna like, I mean, you've got a gold mine, lady, and, like, I don't wanna tell you that you have a gold mine. I wanna buy it from you.
I don't know. You really just got to let your conscience, kind of guide you, for better or for worse. And I'm sure a bunch of people in the industry probably think I'm an idiot, right? But that's all fine and good. And who cares? My view, like, for example, I presented an offer to a gentleman earlier today, and he owns 8% of a 6,800 acre ranch in LaSalle County, Texas. And we did, all the engineering and, which, took a little bit because he owns a bunch of wells. The way I presented the offers, I was like, here's what we think it's worth. Here's what the number is. And he said, well, you're not even close. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. Tell me about what your, other offers are. And so we got into it, and who knows, like, that guy may come back around, but I got into the weeds on really kind of how we came up with our valuation, and you explain, the risks and the benefits of selling. And here's what I tell folks is that this is the simplest way to understand selling mineral rights. Owning producing minerals or even non-producing minerals is like winning the lottery. And we've all been bought a Powerball ticket at one time in our life, and we've been
Oh,
driving down
yeah.
the road. We've been driving down the road, and you're thinking, what if? Right? What if I win? Well, the first question that you have to answer is, do I want the lump sum or do I want the annuity? Because the full $500 million, $1 billion Powerball number, if you win, they're not going to give you all of that money up front, right? It's in a 30-year fixed annuity. After 30 years, you will get the full 500 million. But what does everybody say in their mind whenever they dream about winning the lottery? They're like, oh, I'm going to take the cash.
Everyone wants the cash.
Everybody wants the cash. And the cash is always half of the full headline numbers. It might even be less than half. And the difference between the two is time value of money. Now, in oil and gas, we have other risks like commodity price risk, development risk, time risk. There are other risks that we have to bake into our number. But at the end of the day, like, the service that we provide to mineral owners is liquidity. And we're in a position to handle a lot of those risks. And this happens so often. If I get somebody that owns like 40 acres or 80 acres or 100 acres, they own one property. We own hundreds of properties. And when we buy a property, it goes into a much large bundle of other properties. We don't have the concentration risk that a lot of these individual mineral owners have. And that's exactly what I told, this guy today. As long as you own those minerals, you are wearing that risk. The service that I provide is liquidity, and the number may be less than what you want, but I'm going to give it to you all up front, and you can take it and go reinvest it or do whatever the heck you want with it today. So I have that conversation with folks. And what we do is, like, we just take a more educational approach to mineral buying. The way that we get to a yes is we explain all the factors, and we help people make an informed decision about what is best for them. This is not about smoke and mirrors and, convincing people that the property is tapped out. And in fact, I tell people all the time, if this property was tapped out, I would not be interested in buying it, nor would 20 other people that you're receiving offers from. The ability to just be direct and be honest, honestly, in a lot of cases, gives us more opportunities to actually get deals done than it is you've got other people that are just either lying directly or lying by omission.
That's the sort of next journey in the narrative and the story of the way that you interact with people. It's this, you have this innate sense of it's wrong to steal people. You talked about conscience being at work there, and the way that you exist in the world of business, which is insane. People think, you can't be a businessman and have a conscience. I think I feel like people are constantly wrestling with this, but you say, okay, well, the way that I do that, the way that I'm going to level the playing field is just tell them. Tell them the facts. Like, give people uncomplicated knowledge, tell them a couple stories so they can, contextualize it. And you have done your job. It's, hey, we're on opposite sides of the table. You want to sell, I want to buy. What I'm going to try to do is give you the tools to make a good decision, and trust that that is the reason that people will choose you rather than, oh, I nickel and dimed this deal to get you 100 extra bucks, or, I browbeat you and lied to you to get, me an extra $1,000, right? Here's what I know. Here's what you know. Now we can negotiate fairly with each other and then we'll reach a mutually beneficial decision. And then you carry on.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. Buying minerals is hard. There's nothing easy about it. In a way, like buying minerals is really about finding the right person at the right time. It's so funny because when I first told people that I was going to do this, I told, one of my business partners, I was like, I'm going to make a YouTube channel. And he was like, about what? Of course, you start posting videos and you get 4 views. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, why am I doing this? 3 years later, we have a YouTube subscribership of over 25,000 people. We have over 60,000 followers on Facebook. We're at 20K on Instagram, 40K on TikTok. This thing has far exceeded the original, like, kind of KPIs that I set for myself when I said I'm going to do this. We are way beyond that. It's been a journey and it's taken a lot of time, effort, and attention. But the beautiful thing about it is once it's built, you just taking up space. And my eventual goal is for every mineral owner in America to know who the minerals guy is. If they can find my content, stuff just like this, and they can relate to me in one way or another, or say, you know what, I think that Stephen Hatcher is a decent guy. Maybe I'll call him. Imagine how many opportunities, like as the brand continues to grow, like how many opportunities we're going to be able to look at over the next 10 years, over the next 20 years. I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, honestly, it's a little bit overwhelming because we've got more deals than we have time, right? But we can solve for that by, scaling team and really scaling systems and scaling process. It's so funny because I go to industry events and I get, so many people, reach out. I'm sure some people are like, that guy's an idiot. Like, what is he doing? But a lot of people are like, you know what? Like, I get what you're saying. It's like radical transparency. We need more of that. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Right. And I've talked to CEOs of very large mineral funds that get it. You know what I'm saying? And these are high quality groups that have high ethics and they're just say, keep doing what you're doing, keep going. It's good for the industry. So yeah, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep going.
It hasn't been going since day one. You had to start somewhere. So give me a little bit of this. What's one of the like grittiest, toughest stories on this journey that you've had to overcome?
Oh man, there's been so many things.
You've had three little boys along the way here, right? So you've got, add that in here, by the way, everybody.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. I got 3 under 6, and I'll tell you a quick story. We went and did our annual pilgrimage back to Louisiana, and we got to go back to we're going flying back to Denver on Monday because the tickets are cheaper. Now we got a pretty big family, so, that costs money. So we're flying back Monday morning. We got to leave Baton Rouge at 5 a.m. to drive to New Orleans to get on our plane. Well, my 4-year-old starts projectile vomiting at 2 a.m. We've got the rental minivan. We get everybody strapped in. It's 5:30 in the morning. We're driving down the road, projectile vomit. Get him on the plane, projectile vomit. In addition to like all the other things that I do, and I got an awesome wife and she lets me go and do and have a lot of leeway to do a lot of the crazy things that kind of come up with. It's a lot, man. Nothing about this is like, it's hard. Operating oil and gas wells is hard. Things happen that are beyond your control. All the modeling that we do when we buy a deal where it's like, okay, well, here are all of our assumptions for commodity pricing and volume. As soon as you step into that thing operationally, you get punched in the face. And then it's like, okay, here's the plan that we had. You're constantly having to shift. And there's just a lot that goes into it. Like buying minerals is hard. Figuring out a way to do organic ground game at scale, like none of this stuff is easy. But then again, like I think there's a piece of us that, at least for me, I don't get fulfillment out of doing easy things or accomplishing easy things.
Really?
I have this vision of like what I want this thing to become, this Red Rock Resources and Mile High Minerals and the Minerals Guy and my family. I've just taken kind of the position that you set really high goals for yourself and then you work your ass off in order to make it come to fruition. Every day is a new adventure. I'll spare you the gory details, but I get a call from my business partner on Monday and something didn't go the way that we planned. And he's like, all right, I need this, this, and this by Friday. And The this, and this that he needed are very difficult things to do. In a way, like everything that any of us do is it's just problem solving and trying to do it at a high level and trying to have the right people on your team. One of the things that I've realized for myself is that you really have to have the right people in order to achieve like a grand vision. Like it's pretty hard to do that by yourself. And that's not to say that solopreneurship is not like a real thing, but there's power in partnership. There's power in being able to bring people with different skill sets together. That is the way to achieve scale. One of the things that I'm really focused on with Mile High and Minerals Guy at this point is like, how do we get the right people in place so that we can handle the volume and we can be responsive? My goal for Minerals Guy is to be able to do at least $50 million a year in ground game organic deal flow, which is not buying from brokers, not buying marketed deals where you can deploy a lot of capital. I'm talking about direct to owner, one deal at a time, 40 acres at a time, or 20 acres at a time, or 150 at a time. There's just so much value capture that you can get when you are transacting directly. You're just cutting out the middleman. Yeah. I mean, life is not easy, like life is hard, but sometimes I wonder if I chose the hardest possible way to earn a living in oil and gas because it's difficult. You think things are going good and then Trump sends a tweet and then prices drop 25% and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. How are we going to handle that?
Tapping on something interesting here around this concept of just hanging in there. I feel like there's a lot of encouragement these days. You know me, I'm always going to kind of go buck the common narrative a little bit. But there is this high rate of speed selling of shortcuts. And what I heard you just say is some days, and by some I mean all days, you just show up and you do the thing. And the number of shortcuts that actually exist aren't really shortcuts. They are bridges to good places, but they take time. Like going and finding the right people that fit the culture of what you're building isn't just a send out a quick social post to your aunts, uncles, cousins, and then to start taking resume from college grads, right?
Yep.
There's some of that. You maybe get lucky along the way, but that's just one thing that takes trial and error and working through it with people. And it's a long, slow process. But I mean, would you say that that has done, I mean, you said you don't want to go do anything the easy
That has
way.
been
Like,
the mantra of 2025
yeah,
is
hang in there.
one foot in front of the other, and I'll just give a great example. Like we bought a package of wells last year in our operating company. The day before Thanksgiving or 2 days before Thanksgiving, we had a well that exploded in the state of Michigan. We had obviously multiple fire departments. Thank the Lord, no one was injured, but the tank battery exploded and it shot the top of the tank a half a mile away. Right. So we're talking about a massive concussive explosion. I remember waking up that morning. I looked at my phone and I had like 30 missed calls. And I wake up pretty early. So this is at like probably 5 a.m. or 5:30. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what happened? Because the emergency line, like when you see a Red Rock Resources well, that emergency line, they call it, well, that actually rings my cell phone.
Oh
So
my gosh.
you have to go through a call service, but eventually, like, that call comes to me. We did what we could to triage, right? And obviously, kind of put the fire out, but we're a new company. Like, the operating company was a new company. It was 6 months old at that point. We had our own fire investigator, insurance fire investigator, the cause unknown. Like, it could have been somebody shooting at the tank battery with a gun. It could have been static electricity. It could have been a lightning strike. So just a total kind of freak accident. And there's a reason that we have insurance, right? In the oil and gas world, right? For instances just like this. But I remember thinking, having at least moments of thought where I was like, we might be done. Like, this might be it. What I tell my people is, this is going to sound kind of whatever, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that was a multi-step, multi-month process dealing with the surface owner, dealing with the state of Michigan. It's something that we just walk through. We just walk through it step by step, one foot in front of the other. But it was one of those things that in the moment I could not see the path, or it was like just completely not visible, but you just walk and you problem solve and you show up day after day after day and you try to do the next right thing. Eventually you get through it.
As we land this plane, it's interesting to hear that you can run a sort of national scale business with a big vision to reach every mineral owner in America on the backbone of a very simple, honest, authentic ideology. It's not the easy way. The way that you're doing it's not the easy way, but it's a good way to do it. Typically, I think the big ideas have that to them. As we bring this plane to a landing, I'm curious, what do you find fulfilling? Where do you find the joy? What are the things that just come at you and you go, that is a wind in my sails, and that gives me at least 20 more steps through the hardship?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a builder, and I love taking ideas and turning them into action. I really get a lot of fulfillment from being able to generate a unique idea and being able to see that like actually being brought into existence. I think I get fulfillment out of doing hard things. There's a lot of pain. What's that saying? Life is suffering.
It is.
Suffer better. And just the realization that, I don't know, I think the way that we were built is to work and to work towards excellence, and just things that are above and beyond. And maybe I'll feel different in 30 years, but like, I don't ever really envision myself retiring. There's this quote from Jordan Peterson, who I love. He's talking about retirement and he's like, people have this vision in their mind of like what that is. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be on a beach drinking margaritas. Well, the reality of that is that you're going to be on the beach drinking margaritas for 3 days before you feel like an absolute piece of what.
Yeah.
We're driven to more than that, just ease and comfort, right? So I don't know. Maybe I chose too much. You just keep going, and I hope good things happen.
The good things, I think, are always going to be doing something that's innate to who you are in a way that aligns with what you value as a human being. So you're a builder, you care about creating this level playing field with people and doing business on a level playing field. It's fun to see how you do that. I mean, at Minerals Guy, I think it's so overt and it's powerful. I would tell everyone, go to mineralsguy.com, go look at Steven's face, read the words, understand what he's about. But then, quietly too, it's infusing itself into Red Rock's resources. That's r3operating.com. And what you're doing there is building a culture of people who own the business at every single level of the business. And that's how you're leveling the playing field there. And those people, when we talk to them and they're like, this is the last job I ever want to have in this industry. You're giving those people tons of room to roam. It's powerful to see how that value set sort of ekes across what you do. I'm glad that you have those moments of, just realizing that like retirement's not the goal. Living your life well and doing every day well is more the goal.
That's it.
And it's a powerful way. And honestly, that's for us as investors. We can sit there and look at ROI all day long. I mean, you and I have talked about this. I've got so many minerals fund decks on my desk that it's obscene. The way that you differentiate is like, but what's the heartbeat? And Stephen Hatcher's got a heartbeat. Everyone's going to go buy some good minerals and everyone's going to buy a few bad ones along the way too. But the way that you do it is going to align with me. And so when I think about my dollars and my cents and what I'm saving for and investing with, I'm like, great, there's an asset I understand and care about, but I'm going to go do it with somebody that aligns with my high integrity standards so that at least if something goes wrong, it's like, well, something goes wrong, we did it with the right person. And if it goes right, we did it with the right person. We know there was no crooked dealing in this thing. And I love that. I just love that about everything you do.
Yeah, it's been awesome getting to know you on many levels, as well as the rest of the crew, both at Pivotal and at Cove Pilot. The work that we've done with you guys it's really helped me. It was crazy because like when we were first doing like the Minerals Guy stuff, and you gave me, I forget what it's called. What's the step one that you guys do?
The first step process.
Yeah, I had all these ideas in my head for like what I kind of thought I wanted it to be. And then I sat down with Ben and Danny over the course of several weeks and several months. And they're like, here's what we heard you saying. And then I compared what they heard to what what I had in my own mind. It really helped me to hone in because I'm up here, you know what I'm saying? In my own head. It's like one of my old friends used to say, like, my head is a bad neighborhood. I'm not supposed to go there by myself. It's always cool to have that objectivity of bringing another human in. There's a lot of power in that. And what it helped me to do was to crystallize a lot of these concepts that were just kind of just floating out there in the ether. And then I had a very clear path of, okay, this is what I want it to be. And these are the steps that I need to take in order to make it happen.
Thank you. It has been really fun going through the visioneering process with you over the years. It's been even more fun kind of doing a quick little recap here in these past few minutes and really seeing the through lines and how they've played out over the past few years. And Stephen Hatcher, thank you. Thanks for being on
Yeah,
the
man.
podcast. Thanks for building a business with intention. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
I'm so grateful that Stephen Hatcher joined us on the At Depth podcast. He is so good at going deep and really diving into the big topics in a really intricate way. If you want to find out more about him, go to mineralsguy.com. That's his platform for leveling the playing field for mineral owners. It's also an incredible resource if you're interested in finding out more about mineral rights. Also, Stephen is a partners with some wonderful people on the Red Rocks Resources business. That's an operating company that operates in a lot of different basins around the United States. And you can go to r3operating.com to find more out about that. I'm so grateful to have spent this time at depth with Stephen Hatcher. Join us again on the next episode of the At Depth podcast.